the American Civil War, the ranks can become a little bit confusing. Both Union and Confederate sides will use ranks of similar sorts. The lowest ranking officers would be your privates, your corporals, and your sergeants, your non-commissioned officers. The next step up from there would be your line officers, men who are lieutenants and captains. Then your field grade officers, your majors, your lieutenant colonels, and your colonels. And then finally, you move up into the higher ranks of the generals. Now, each army does have different sets of insignia for their ranks. As we look back to our non-commissioned officers, most of those men would have chevrons on their arms, 2 for corporals, 3 for sergeants. Moving up to your lieutenants is where things start to become a little bit more complicated for the Union and the Confederates. The Union would have shoulder boards normally, with small bars inside of these boards showing if you are a lieutenant or a captain. The Confederates on the other side usually didn't have shoulder boards, though some did. Most of the Confederates, though, would wear their insignia of first lieutenant, second lieutenant, or captain up on their collars. Your field grade officers would be your majors, your lieutenant colonels, and your colonels. The lieutenant colonels and your majors, they would have oak leaves inside of their shoulder boards, and then you would have a full bird as a full bird colonel for the Union. Now the Confederates, they would normally use single stars for majors, 2 stars for lieutenant colonel, and then 3 for colonel. Moving over to the generals, it becomes much more complicated. For the North, again, we're going to use 1 star for a brigadier general, 2 for a major general, and 3 for a lieutenant general. To denote a Southern general, Confederate armies normally use 3 stars with a laurel wreath around these stars. You would know that they're a general, but you would not know what rank of general they would be, because those 3 stars denoted the ranks of brigadier, major, lieutenant, and full generals. To confuse you just a little bit more, Robert E. Lee, a full general, would actually wear the insignia of a colonel rather than a full rank general in the Confederate Army. Now, it wasn't just chevrons and shoulder boards that would denote if you were an officer or an NCO. The Confederates predominantly would use Austrian braids, ornate braiding that would be on the cuffs of each one of their officers' coats, and this would be one way to show if you were a lieutenant all the way up to a general. In 1863, the principal army of the North, the Army of the Potomac, instituted what were known as corps badges. Corps badges are the forerunners of our modern divisional patches. These corps badges would denote which of the 7 infantry corps a unit belonged to. They would be small symbols, a little circle for the 1st corps, a trefoil or a shamrock for the 2nd corps, and beyond. They would be red, they'd be white, they'd be blue, to tell you exactly which division these men served in, the 1st, the 2nd, or the 3rd. The corps badges are a key identifying feature on a soldier as they're marching across the battlefield, because most of the men in the Union Army were dressed in blue. But they're also a symbol for men to rally behind. These corps badges were a point of pride with the Union soldiers all the way up through their veteran years until the day they die. Beyond the corps badges, there are many identifying insignia for both the Northern and the Southern armies, including a flaming cannonball, which would help to show that you are part of the Ordnance Department, or crossed axes to show that you're a pioneer. In the end, many people think that ranks and insignia have more to do with the pomp and circumstance of war, but the reality is that ranks and insignia are an important part of every army and battle.